rattles his shoes. This is what Johnny feels like, and this audio is garbage through this mic. It's so, like, crackly. I'm amazed he was able to come up with a coherent fucking thought, given this audio experience that's over here, Paul. There we go. Oh, I got the YouTube notification right here. Watch live now, Talk Junkies. What's going on with the world FT?
Featuring.
Oh, that's what that means?
Yeah.
This is very meta. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's see here.
I like it.
There we go. Kind of straighten this up a little bit.
Yeah, however you want to do it, man.
Yeah.
Just remember, get into the mic a little bit, and you'll be good. You'll be golden.
Like that?
Yeah.
All right.
That's beautiful.
Let me, I'm actually going to drop this notification off somewhere, too. So
Yeah.
hang on just a sec.
Feels good.
To go live.
Not in this fucking mic, though. How did Johnny live with this?
I mean, that's still like a $150 mic.
Bro, the difference is insane.
Well, this is your standard mic right here.
The audio quality coming through this right here.
No, you don't like it?
You give me the Ritz and then try to sell me a Super 8? Bro, no. Give me the Ritz. That's what that shit is over there.
Yeah.
It's been a minute, but that's fine. I'm gonna react. I'll do good with this.
I'll buy Johnny one. Give it time.
Johnny doesn't need one.
I'll stop buying.
Jesse does.
I'll stop buying football
it's all good.
cards.
That's not true at all.
Well,
We're gonna make it work.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Talk Junkies, where tonight's going to be a very interesting night, as it is each and every single week here in my household. Got Jesse in the house. Got Kaleb.
Hello, all.
Hey.
Kaleb in the house.
Yeah.
Kaleb is a guest speaker here tonight, or a guest interview, or whatever you want to call it.
We're just chatting.
We're friends.
Yeah.
We're friends hanging out, man. That's what Talk Junkies is. Come on.
Yeah,
Friends
well,
hanging
we're
out.
very pleased to have you on the show, man. You've been on once before with Pat from Truth, Money, Freedom, Missouri Liberty Alliance, which that's not a thing. It's not that anymore because of Roy Blunt.
Missouri Freedom Initiative.
Which is still, it's a beautiful name, man. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. How you doing, man?
To be here. I was doing all right. I'm just going to drop off the link to this over here on a couple of chats. There we go.
Hell yeah, get more people involved. I'm all for it. If you guys are interested in last week's podcast, we had Dan on, Dan Cox, with he's a constitutionalist. There was a comment on last week's podcast where someone had mentioned that Dan dropped out of college and no one should listen to what it is he has to say. And I don't necessarily agree with that, man. I think Dan brings a lot to the table. The Constitution is very important. I think if we were to, not necessarily abide, but if we were to go with the Constitution more often than not, I think that things would be better. But if you are interested in what the Constitution has to bring, we talked about term limits. We talked about just some other things that involve the Supreme Court. Check out last week's podcast. It was a really good podcast. But anywho, again, we have Kaleb from the Missouri
Freedom Initiative.
Missouri Freedom Initiative. I'm sorry.
I'm just here representing myself today and a little bit of them too. I mean,
For sure.
There you go.
But here we are, and we're gonna have a good podcast tonight, man. And there's a lot of things going on in the world right now that it's crazy. You got inflation going crazy. You have all of these from early 2021 and up until now. We've had over 20 food processing plants that have mysteriously burned down. You had the 2,000 to 10,000 cattle that died 2 or 3 days ago in southwestern Kansas. That was allegedly heat stroke related. But then not even a day or two after that, you had a train derail in southwestern Kansas with just mass amounts of coal on the train. Mm-hmm. Then there was a fire somewhere in another country it was in Australia, I believe, where it was like an oil refinery or a power plant or something like that was up in flames. I mean, just the insane amount of things that are going on right now. It's just very crazy, and that's kind of what we're going to shed light on tonight, is just some stuff like that.
Well, in the past 2 years, it's actually been, if I remember correctly, it's been like 94, 97 of the processing plants that have burned to the ground, and it seems to be their only excuse is, oh, well, we were destroying the birds for the avian flu. Well, when you do that, you don't burn the whole damn building down.
Well, right, and with the avian flu, and
I never addressed that though.
I think even within the CDC or FDA guidelines, you can still eat a chicken that has the avian flu because we cook it to 165 degrees, at which point kills the bacteria in the bird, if I'm not mistaken.
The viral load, yeah. I mean, FDA what else do you expect out of the federal government? But hey,
Right. That's what I'm saying. And people don't realize that if you look into the massive amounts of chicken that have died in the past year, you're looking in the tunes of tens of millions of chickens. It's crazy. Just, I think it's the same price point as ground beef right now, or if not higher. It's chicken.
It's all just really bad.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight.
It's very, very bad. Let me get this. I just guys want to see the. I want to see the actual live chat.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, that would be phenomenal if we actually get some questions.
Well, you pulled up on your phone, Jesse.
Yeah,
That's always been.
I just pulled it up and it's leaning up against my soda. Let's hope I don't have to take a drink.
So how do you say it? Is it gun eye? Is that how you say it, or gunny?
Yeah, Gun Eye. I don't know exactly how he. I don't know how he pronounces it, but we always call him just one or the other on the stream. So
For sure.
But
So-
yeah, it's he's over in the. I want to say he's in the Columbia area. Talked to him quite a bit.
Good deal.
Um,
Well, let's hit it up, man. Inflation. What's going on with it? We had Janet Yellen come out today saying that inflation's here to stay with us for 2022. What do you see with inflation, Caleb?
That's been obvious for a very long time. Inflation was always going to be that way, particularly with the fact they printed about 30% of the monetary supply back in throughout 2020. It started in March of 2020, April of 2020, but then they just continued printing and printing and printing. And the inflation isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Something I like to throw at it is you can kind of see how the more they start proxy wars, the more they can circulate that currency outside of the general economy, which kind of dulls it a little bit. But there's only so long they can do that.
So it goes hand in hand. Mm-hmm. When you print that much money, you're going to have some type of war.
You have to launder it somewhere else. Otherwise, it's going to go straight to inflation.
Okay. And I know you had talked about bringing Pat on to talk about the bond market and all that stuff, but I mean, like, we got to be able to dive into it a little bit. When you talk about Ukraine, you say that, so for the war, and I don't even know if I'm even coming at it the right way, but I mean, so as of right now, we're at close to $50 billion that we've given to Ukraine when it comes to money?
Yeah, and most of that is either more printing or more tax dollars.
Right.
And, inflation is also the hidden tax, which means that every bit of savings you have is just gradually losing its value.
Right, because the dollar is not backed by anything.
Mm-hmm.
No, this has always been said as far as a smart investor goes, is you have to match inflation with your investment. If you're just saving money is such a great starting point for people to get their finances correct. But if you don't ever get to tier 2 or tier 3 of learning finance, then you fail immediately because all of your money goes to waste. Like, it's not just your hard work your hard work is wasting away at a certain point of just saving it. It has to match at least inflation. Super basic principle of investing and understanding finance. I don't exactly.
Let me put something this way. So, what would you say the difference is between money and currency?
Money and currency? They both go immediately hand in hand. I could not tell you a differentiating.
Money has
between
value.
the two.
Currency is a promise that likely can be devalued
So just
or never fulfilled.
So just like a note. So just like a note saying this is worth whatever, but that has so much variance that now I bet you're a big proponent in investing into gold and like hard mineral usable things.
To an extent, but moreover, all physical assets like property, weapons and ammo.
No, that's all correct. Tangible things. How much? Whenever you heard of the word NFT for the first time and that acronym, how much did you laugh? Maybe laughing so hard you shit your pants, like myself. I'm like, this is the most jokeable fucking thing I've ever heard of. Is non-tangible or non-fungible tokens. This ridiculous idea of that, which is, well, as far as the spectrum goes, you want physical things that are worth things. And then you have this opposite spectrum of just absolute ridiculous fucking things there. I'm sorry, I'm going off on a weird fucking thing here.
No, you're good.
I don't even know who's leading the podcast now.
And see, there's another angle to look at too when it comes to like NFTs and crypto versus Federal Reserve notes. Because Federal Reserve notes are tied to a central bank that they have the absolute total control over, and you can go deeper into that and talk about where all that came from with the Rothschilds and how that controls and leads into the other central banks like the central, like European Bank, Deutsche Bank. Anyway, the different central banking systems. Most of the Western world uses the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. It's a centralized system. Now, crypto, on the other hand, it has its faults. It definitely does. But I will give it credit for one thing, and that is when it is completely decentralized, there's no one person has total control over it, which is why the Federal Reserve and those people in power want to go after it so bad. Now, is it still traceable? Yeah. People will tell you it's not, but unless you can have physical devices that share those codes along without an internet connection, like just a quick Bluetooth connection, you can pass it person to person down the line. But the moment you pass it through any of the exchanges, which once again are tied to the tax system and everything, and it's another way they get into your personal life and everything you buy and sell and everything, they can trace it.
So and that's the biggest thing for me is like how decentralized really is cryptocurrency.
Exchanges are not, but the currency itself can be, has the potential.
But when you're talking about the technology that we're combining this with, especially on a federal level or government level, they're going to have their hands in it. I mean,
oh, yeah.
You saw, right whenever Dogecoin started being big and obviously Bitcoin hitting 70,000. I mean, I don't remember at what point when Bitcoin hit its all-time highs, but that's when the government got involved and said, hey, we need regulations with these cryptocurrencies because they want their hands in it.
It undermines their system, so they're going to attack it directly.
Right.
And in terms of the actual, like the app exchanges and stocks on the, legitimate Wall Street and Main Street stocks, it is heavily controlled. Doesn't mean you can't exchange it person to person directly through devices, or you can't have like. Actually, I have something on me in my wallet. Someone at this Prepared Homestead expo I went down to had these guys. It's a physical, actual card that has the code in it.
So like a physical representation.
A physical representation. You can give this to someone. It's supposed to be worth $5 equivalent.
Okay.
And
they can scan it and get the $5.
This is like the hidden cash.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
Just has a QR code on it.
Yeah, this is basically just the same thing as cash. The difference is it's completely decentralized. And there are ways to do that.
But isn't it almost defeating the purpose of crypto whenever you have it in that form? So you just physically pulled a piece of paper laminated in front of me of cryptocurrency. And doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose?
Not necessarily. And the reason being is that the difference between that dollar exchanging it to someone that has a code on it and then has its value, that value of that piece of paper is controlled by a central bank. This is not. This is always worth whatever a free market is going to claim that's worth.
Okay.
And you have to understand the difference between money and worth and wealth versus a currency. And a currency is effectively, no matter what it's worth in between, is still an intermediary. If you have, this guy has 2 turkeys, this guy has 5 chickens. They want to trade. They could either trade it, $5 a piece for each chicken in between to equal those, or they could just trade that. A currency is nothing but an intermediary. And the problem is that when you hold on to that intermediary for a while, and you have a central bank that alters its value outside of anybody's control, now, I'm never going to be a full proponent of, say, a fiat currency. But as someone who chooses to do so and trade in that, you're going to be better off trading in something decentralized that you know what its value is going to be that day versus, an arbitrary claim from the Fed.
Almost at that sense is what you're saying is the system that we have right now works. It's just extremely corrupted. And that's the problem with the U.S. dollar and inflation and all this. Well, and it's just extremely corrupted.
not just that, it's that something that is completely centralized will never work because of human nature.
No, and dude, I fucking get on board with you.
Yeah, 100%.
So fucking, like, that's the easiest. Like, I'm right there with you.
But we got
100%.
We have to stick to what is presented in front of us, and we know that human beings are inherently always going to be that way. So what would work?
Unless we come up with good fucking litigation, I'm still about this. First of all, I'm still one to believe in a capitalism that is uncorrupted, even though it has been corrupted. But uncorrupted capitalism works the best.
And the only way to have an uncorrupted capital market is to not have any government involvement whatsoever.
I'm a libertarian.
That includes patent laws. The moment you start having government say that this patent is owned by this person, then using that government to interfere with that market, you run into another problem, because then you have government pick one corrupt person in government can pick a monopoly and make a monopoly.
So what you're asking for now is higher standards of political officials and law being set into place that holds them accountable to their actions.
Well, to an extent, but
that sounds nice though, right? To everybody. I'm pretty sure every voting American, regardless of what side you sit on, would probably appreciate maybe a little bit higher standards that limits them on what they're allowed to do whenever they're sitting in office, and allows us more leniency to us voting them in, things of this nature.
Yeah.
Then you have to understand the actual structure of the Constitution and how it's supposed to work versus how it works out now. It would take me hours to go through all the little fine details of the founding generation, what they pointed out, and what is happening now as a result. But at the end of the day, oh God, what's the word I'm looking for here? At the end of the day, people that become in a place of power will become corrupted.
Over a long enough period of time. I
Some
completely
people
agree. I'm a big proponent in believing that human beings, given a long enough period of time, will become corrupt, because eventually somebody comes in. That's been the case on every historical level you've ever fucking read in history books. Eventually societies crumble and they become corrupt, and then bad shit fucking happens, and people, and whatever amount it takes is differentiating between time periods. But eventually people get angry. They go, hey, you took advantage of us too much. Now we're going to go, French Revolution or fucking whatever it is. And then shit happens, and then you reset. And then it happens again.
And then it resets.
Yes.
There's more to that as well. So first you got to understand exactly how it's supposed to be structured versus how they've made it structured. The federal government is supposed to be the subordinate of everything. They are not supposed to be the central power of anything. The only things delegated to them in the Constitution is foreign affairs and domestic trade. And it's not even, people like to take the term regulate and look at it and go, oh, well, that means control. No, it doesn't. In that era, it meant to make efficient. It's like using the term of a governor on an engine. What does it do? It controls the RPMs, but it keeps it going.
You're talking about hermeneutics and the misunderstanding of what words were like back then, especially within litigation, which I'm sure it's vastly fucking different.
And it's because of Supreme Court precedents that effectively they adopted I'm just trying to shorten this up the best I can so you get the point. And that's that they picked up a system of deciding cases, which they're not supposed to decide on cases. They're supposed to issue opinions, not rulings. That's another topic in itself.
Yep.
But stare decisis means rule by precedent. It's something that was adopted not too long after the turn of 1800. Thomas Jefferson widely spoke out against the courts. The Supreme Court considered them to be an unelected bunch of sappers and miners that expand their power arbitrarily, and they're therefore expanding the power of the federal government. The reality is how it's supposed to be structured. It's supposed to be the people that tell the states what to do, and then the states can cut off the feds whenever they see that the feds aren't doing what they're going outside of their bounds. That should have been done a long time ago. In fact, I would look at one of the first things they did right after the turn of 1900s was the Dick Act. Anybody familiar with that?
Mm-mm.
Where they
Not at all.
they basically nationalized the National Guard of each state. Those were the state militias. They turned them national. Completely unconstitutional. Not supposed to be there at all.
So they were like a federal movement, as opposed to being like states had to like, okay, this is what's happening as far as defense. We'll agree to it, disagree. Now it's just like, if we mobilize, we mobilize.
These military budgets as they exist, not supposed to be there. You're not supposed to have more than 4-year period, and it's supposed to be based on a formal declaration of war. When was the last time we had a formal declaration of war of any kind?
Was the Iraq War? Not.
World War II.
Oh, wow.
Every war since has been unconstitutional.
See,
enough, yeah.
we've always been a little bit like, soft-footed because of we've never had our boundaries crossed outside of Pearl Harbor. But that's for a different story.
There's a whole
yeah,
other.
I know. I was about to say there's a different side to that. But as far as our boundaries being crossed, as far as us being involved in a war because of shit that happened to us directly, that was Pearl Harbor. But
yeah,
1942 was the last official declaration of war.
1941. It was a few days. Yeah, well, actually, when did we formally declare war? It was December 7th when that actually happened.
whenever it was financially,
I mean, this all goes back to having Did on last week and what truly is the Constitution. And we look at these things, and I think what we clearly can see whenever we talk about these types of topics is simply the fact that there has been a mass propaganda campaign that has gone on against the American people. And what is the Constitution? It's we the people, right? We are the ones who decide what happens in this country, and that's slowly dissipated as time has went on. Each and every single year, if you want to go back to 1942 or whenever it was, they have, with the onset of technology, they have been able to figure out how to lead us as sheep into the slaughterhouse. And we are slowly doing that, right? And that's completely frustrating. And I forget the basis of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
When you go into,
I was kind of going to some backstory here on to get to where I'm going with this. But if anybody out there really wants to look more into exactly how the wording of the Constitution is supposed to function, because the Constitution is nothing but words on paper. It's a parchment barrier that does nothing without people enforcing it. It's the population that's supposed to enforce that on the government.
Correct, yes.
But at the end of the day, if you really want to understand the exact phrasing and the exact why they did what and how, I highly recommend looking at 10th Amendment Center. It's like hours and hours of video content, but it's worth it. But when it comes to the parchment barrier, people are supposed to be the ones enforcing it, but as time goes on, you have, like World War II. People, after they got done with the war, they came home, they wanted to just not have anything to do with anything else. What did they do? They raised their kids in quiet, there's the suburbs that were developing at the time, and you had what you called the silent generation that came out of that.
what is it? We had Paul.
Paul Revere?
No, we had Paul on.
Paul Enslaved.
Paul Enslaved, talking about weak generations or easy generations give birth to weak men and then give birth to like struggle. Is that kind of this weird fucking cycle that happens?
It is,
within,
but it's something that wouldn't happen if it weren't for the government interference in the first place. And the reason I say is because without the indoctrination camps known as public schools to teach the kids to be compliant little sheep, you wouldn't have this problem. What was it, 1971, the Department of Education was established. I think it was 1974, 90. I can't exactly remember what date. But
somewhere around there.
You have some replies. That's nice.
I know, yeah. Oh, crap, I'm about to knock this over. I need to set
Yeah, we got Bribberty Gibbert in the chat, going hard. Appreciate you on that. And then Gun Eye's in there as well.
Yep. I'm trying to figure out a way to set this up.
Be right back.
Anyway, but I was kind of going into how just kind of using this general image of how it's supposed to work as a basis. Now you go into today's times and you have the amount of corruption there is, and you look at the currency as it is, how much money they can print, how they can move it around. One of the biggest enemies we have is towards enforcing their crap on the states' public service unions. Because where does that money come from?
What do you mean by public service unions?
Public service unions, police unions, prosecutors unions, sheriffs unions. What else? Teachers unions, even.
Okay, so locally within each state type of thing.
Where does that money come from? And unlike another union, who are they beholden to?
When you're talking about the board of these organizations, who are they beholden to?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And those are the people who are making money, and those are the people who are answering to the people who are paying them. So who are they beholden to?
They're beholden to whoever they get the money from.
Right.
Because the government just steals the money, hands it out however.
What do you mean steals the money? From taxpayers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Taxation is theft. I'm not.
So, but that's 100%. I agree with that. But that's part of the national budget type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Budgets that aren't supposed to exist.
Right.
The reality is that when it comes to doing anything within the states, the federal government has no legitimate authority outside of post roads, which is basically interstate highways.
Right.
To produce money and budgets for any of it. That's not within their jurisdiction, but what do? And with the Federal Reserve, they can keep doing it. So at the end of the day, what you have is you have public service unions. Those public service unions get the money from that, both the federal and the local, which they end up pushing for more property taxes, which in turn, when they push for more property taxes or anything of that sort, then they're not beholden to those people. They're beholden to keeping that money supply going.
Who creates these budgets on a state level?
Legislatures. But look who goes in and lobbies in the legislatures.
Who?
Public service unions.
The people who are on the board?
Have you noticed? It's like when we were dealing with the 2A Preservation Act. One of our biggest oppositions, you know who it was?
Public service union?
Missouri Sheriff's Association.
Right.
Because anything that would cut into their budget is an enemy to them.
Correct.
Anything that would...
So we've allowed it to happen on a local level, as opposed to even...
Yep.
Forget about even federal
and
at this point.
it's because the difference between, say, a union that would be like a... Because I'm not really for or against unions privately. I have no opinion on them because it depends on the situation.
Sure.
Issue to issue. But when you're talking about public service unions that have no ties to a market, all of these things, all of these violations of the Constitution at the federal level can't be skipped over by the states until you get rid of that interference.
Right.
Because that interference, at the end of the day, is going to be who's paying those politicians. The politicians, you get all their donations, and who are they going to be following? Are they going to be following the people that are going to put them in office necessarily that aren't paying attention? Because a lot of them don't. A lot of them are armchair politicians. They say, I'm just going to vote this party or this party and don't care either way.
But how can you change that, though? Political parties will always have that issue.
Well, we're talking about on a local level.
We're talking about how to deal with the public service unions.
A local level, it kind of dwindles a little bit, right? But it's
No,
still
not-
there.
You missed a lot on the public service.
Yeah.
You missed a lot.
But, they can still be paid out, right?
That's what we're...
We were just talking.
My apologies.
No,
my
you're
apologies.
fine, man. You're
You
fine.
missed a bunch.
Yeah.
Did you just walk back in here?
Yeah, no, I was outside. I had to piss, man. My bad.
So basically,
Hand me that tequila. I'm going to
dude,
piss again.
this
Where is it?
This corruption is basically starting. The lobbying is essentially starting locally, not even on an.
At the end of the day, the lobbying, where it comes from, is a combination of federal dollars from whatever federal committee, like, for example, teachers' unions, when they start with the whole thing with the lockdowns and everything, and they were demanding the states do lockdowns, a lot of that came from the teachers' unions. That becomes a problem because they lobbied them. They use combination of money that goes into their unions from, out of, union dues. And then you have that with federal money from the Department of Education. And guess what happens? Then they pay politicians their donations. Let me give you an example. You look at Dean Plockers, one of the biggest moron we've had a problem with, because he is in the Missouri House. He is at least, actually, no, I think they just elected him to Speaker of the House. But he was the majority floor leader. So when you're a majority floor leader, how it works in Missouri is that they are the ones who decide what bills go on the floor.
One person
decides who's going to go on the bill, put a bill on the floor. We had HB 2118, which would have ended.
What does it take to have a bill redacted at that point? Because what you're saying is there's new bills, new issues. Is there bills that are completely redacted from what was put in? That had to have happened.
That happens too, and I'll explain that in a minute. But when you have people like Dean Plocker, he was a former prosecutor. And if you look down his campaign finance list, because they're all required to report it, you know who he gets a bunch of money from?
Okay.
Medical unions, which is still technically a public service union because they have a lot of involvement with federal money.
Would you be okay with some litigation coming in as far as, if you're taking a dollar bill on the side, now it's criminal?
I'll get into that here in a minute.
Okay.
Let me finish where I was going with this. So you go with the if it's from medical, national unions, and they receive a lot of money from Medicare, Medicaid funding, and they get paid regardless. You have the prosecutors union that funded him quite a bit. If I remember correctly, I can't guarantee this but I think if I remember correctly, he took money from Missouri Sheriff's Association as well. Okay, so the bills we had to push through, we had 2118. It would have moved the burden of proof from in a situation of a personal, self-defense shooting. It would have moved that burden of proof onto the state. They had to prove that you did wrong. He killed that bill.
Okay, so I'm sorry I'm going to interrupt you.
So you're weakening a personal defense case.
Fuck all that. How did we even get to this point? Because to me that sounds insane. That someone who's taking money from No, I'm not even talking about what he's talking. I'm saying about this Dean Locker guy or whatever.
Dean Plocker.
He allows what is voted on in the House in Missouri. Mm-hmm. How does one person have
House rules?
No, fuck that, man. Mm-hmm. Fuck that. When he's taking political contributions from other unions or whatever it is, national unions, whoever the fuck these people, if you were Speaker of the House in any state, you shouldn't be able to take any type of money. Fuck that. That's insane.
The issue is the politicians that probably you're backing right now too probably have affiliations.
We actually don't back any.
So you're the neutral. You're the great fucking. You're the great neutral source of just beautiful shit that is libertarian as fuck. We don't back politicians because they're corrupt as fuck, right? Mm-hmm. But in some way, you almost have to. And it's really difficult. This is what I'm getting at. This is what I was getting at in general, is we need fucking some litigation that says if you're taking money that benefits you while you were in office, you need to be prosecuted on a heavy fucking level.
There's that, but there's different ways.
Is this not just some simple fucking shit that every American should be frustrated about and be like, hey, where's this fucking litigation at? You have all these fucking bankers that are tied to so-and-so, and this person hasn't, from COVID, they fucking pulled out a bunch of fucking money. 5 fucking politicians. I don't know. I wish I was more knowledgeable on the actual fucking names. I'm sure you would. You just get away with everything. Mm-hmm. And we suffer for it.
Well, let me give you some examples here. So, like I mentioned, 2118. Killed the bill. In fact, one of our guys that's on the channel a lot, Casey Rich, he went up there, talked to Plocker in person, and Plocker told him to his face that bill will never see the light of day. To his face. And then gave, from my understanding, I can't confirm this, but he gave a weird laugh about it too. But that was one. And then you have Another one, it was to ban the arm thingy in public schools, that requirement of any way, shape, or form. You, who else he takes money from? Pediatrics Association. Let's see here. What was the other one? Oh, we tried to get rid of the sales tax on food. Yeah, that didn't go too well. There was one other one. I'm not thinking of it right now. But point being is that until you get rid of interference from public service unions, they can take money from their donors all day when it comes to the actual campaign funds from people that just want to vote for them. But the moment you start having unions that are not tied or not compelled by any public source, and then demanding their agenda and the endorsement of a federal agenda on the states, you're screwed.
It sounds like nothing's going to get done. It sounds like little pieces will get done, and the money is there so much on the other side that it will absolutely be a wave to fucking take it out.
This is why.
Where's like the,
because they got SAPO through. They got SAPO through.
We did get
dude,
it through.
but that doesn't how until the federal government. It's the fucking. This is what I said. You had Dan on. We had fucking Dan on.
It took us 8 years to get that through. Now,
and I'm
I
like,
was involved for like.
And I said this on that podcast. I'm like, man, but you're fucking with the federal government. Mm-hmm. They're the most corrupt assholes that ever lived. Mm-hmm. They have endless money. Endless money. They're gonna fuck you.
But they're
gonna fuck you over. They'll always win.
There's only so far they can go, because eventually their dirty little secrets get out. One of the ways that we actually attacked them surrounding this is because we found a nice little audit out of the Missouri Sheriff's Association. Apparently, they received a multi-million-dollar grant for iris scanning technology, which is illegal in Missouri, and that money was never sent back. You use it as ammo. You find every bit of dirt you can find on these unions, and you use it as ammo. One of the reasons why they hate SAPA so bad is because on top of the $50,000 per infringement, per this, and the fact that they can't work with the ATF, and by the way, with how that functions, if, let's say, for example, feds came in and said, all right, we're just going to...
Fuck the ATF, by the way. Fuck
yeah, I know.
Sorry, fuck the ATF. So there's...
Sorry. You got to listen to this for a second. So, and this is where it gets you got to laugh at this too, because it's pathetic how badly they get screwed if they try to do anything in Missouri.
But this is my question to you: how long is it going to last? Yeah, you got your shit through. How long can you combat this? Because what they know is they've always won. The federal government has always won. Name a time when the U.S. federal government hasn't won against even state level shit.
I know they lost against a bunch of armed ranchers out in the desert. They lost.
Man, but that's
my point. My point being, though, is at the end of the day, you have to attack those unions. You have to publicly attack those unions. No one does that, and that's the problem. No one attacks the ones that are funding these politicians, and when they don't attack those and they don't expose their bullshit, this is what happens.
Man, I feel like I'm right there with you, but so much has gone towards like wrong energy towards that. When it's,
I think you almost have to.
It's basically like the blue line cult. The whole blue line thing is that the cops make this big old cover of supporting this and that, but in the end of the day, it's a gang. It's a cult. It's a bunch of.
It's a brotherhood.
Yeah, and what it is at the end of the day, they're going to protect each other and they're going to protect their money. And I was saying a minute ago how SAPA actually puts them in a spot.
Yeah.
Is because...
So how can anybody trust you to be a backer of this when at some point you'll probably be in the same position as them?
Oh, hang on. Let me finish what I'm saying here. When you have... Not only are the $50,000 fines and this and that, and then you also have that if the ATF comes in here and they try to enforce something, they have to do it alone, which mostly they got nothing because they have no data from the cops. And if they try to deputize any of the cops, that cop has to be fired. So effectively, to do anything with the department, they'd have to fire and hire the whole damn department. But it goes through civil suit.
No.
It goes through civil suit, and it's rigged against them against qualified immunity. So when it's in a civil suit, it goes through a discovery process. What does that do?
Talking about discovery of evidence towards a pending
And where
case.
are they going to look?
Man,
They're unions.
I think you shedding light on unions in general, I think that's probably a start. And my next question would be, like, me not really even being into this type of environment that you and your guys' initiative is in. A lot of people don't know this, man. And a lot of people don't know that the Speaker of the House of Missouri is collecting money. Just like people think when Trump says drain the swamp, and I'm not a big proponent of Trump in any way, shape, or form. I said it, any way, shape, or form. But talking about draining the swamp, I think you think that on a federal level. You think about the banksters, you think about the billionaires. You don't think it on a local level. And I think that if you're trying to get stuff like this across to people, bring it in a local level and teach Missourians or teach people who are in Kansas or whatever state that you're in. You teach them that, hey, this shit's going on at a local level. Even at that point, I had no idea, and that's my own fault. You know what I'm saying?
This guy's chomping at the bit. He needs to get in here.
It's just such a weird thing for me to hear so much. At some point, political jargon goes so far, and it almost gets away from this human morality of ethics. That I think needs to be simplified. So many viewers out there or listeners out there like will hear the podcast and they'll be like, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about right now. They're talking about gun, whatever, this. Why is it important to me? Like it's more important for me to like hone in on a moral level of why, like the why of things that we do. And the freedom, like I hate it was only a couple of years ago, the libertarians were like praised. Like you were praised being a libertarian. You were like, oh man, you're the badass, right? Like, oh, you had this free thinking idea of being a libertarian. And now libertarians are jokes. Like you're a literal fucking joke. You talk to anybody who knows anything about politics, you're like, oh, libertarians don't fucking work out. You talk about gun laws, you talk about everybody having freedom to do whatever. They're like, yeah, that will never fucking work. We need the government to fucking be involved in some way. I don't know. It's this weird thing, and I always like to make it to a layman's terms of and you could talk about like bills and everything. But the morality behind it, like between me and you, we know what's right and wrong. Like between me, Caleb, Paul, right here, we know what's right and wrong right now, and we know that, and it has become miscued or skewed. I'm sorry, in the sense of the terms of what's happening on like a government fucking level. So it's just I don't know.
Yo. You're not
His
through.
mic's off.
There you go.
Oh, there we go. I wasn't closing. Wow, that's actually kind of quiet. Did I hit something? No. Okay.
Liberty Gibbiter said, thanks, Gary Johnson.
That guy was a dumpster fire. What's Aleppo? Where's Aleppo?
I'm also
What is
really
Aleppo?
fucking drunk too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. But I mean, you have to look at the big picture. Okay, you have your public image.
See, but I think that I know the big picture though, and it frustrates me.
A lot of people don't see this is the same thing across all states. This is not just Missouri. Missouri just happens to be the first or one of the first ones that's really, really the first one that's putting a public eye on this situation.
Do we have some shit from fucking viewers? Like,
yeah, let me look through here.
Yeah, we got Liberty Johnson. Politics can never be moral because no group can exercise a right that no individual.
True.
No, they're this weird entity that's outside of morality.
Let's put it
at
this
that
way.
point.
Politics can never be moral outside of the bounds of natural law.
It's weird. It's this weird
Because
fucking thing.
Okay, so let me put it this way: the basis of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence.
Why do you hold true to those so much?
Because
let me ask Caleb really quick. Do you not have set morality within inside of yourself? Like, don't really quick. The Constitution, everything. Caleb holds shit that was given to you either by experience or your parents or genetics or fucking whatever. You hold true to that shit, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The reason he was able to have that, Jesse, is because
shit.
But the Constitution's allowed for Caleb to even be existed. You know what I'm saying? Like,
what you're saying is the Constitution is a great representation of holding those moralities up by that individual. And I'm able to say, hey, because here we are. I feel this way. I feel like I believe in this, and this is what I'm going to be able to. Well, I'm weird.
Yeah, which is a lot. Yeah.
Let me put it this way. Here's what I say.
That was a poor fucking example. I'm going to be.
Here's what I say. You have two types of law. You have natural law, and you have the law of man. In a society that is an actual free society, you have the law of man that only mimics the law of the law of nature. Because in a free society, if you're going to have a government, it is only meant to be there to endorse natural law and help organize the existence of natural law. For example, you file a suit against someone that did you wrong. Okay, that's there for that. Someone kills somebody, they're supposed to speak on their behalf. That is the basis of natural law. At the end of the day, though, it doesn't always work out like that. And because people, particularly those who want power, will take power. The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and all this stuff, I reference it because it is text you can look at and then look at its original definitions, and you can understand how it's supposed to be in comparison to natural law versus how it is now. Because it's a solid representation, a written representation of natural law in its original
And that
form.
sounds fucking great. That sounds fucking great. Up until everybody's been reading that shit, by the way, for a long fucking time. And everybody's been abused. Mm-hmm. And everybody's fucking been abused. So what do you tell? Everybody knows. I know the shit that I'm supposed to be, the rights that are given to me, human fucking rights, right? I know that shit. They've all been taken away. And we sit back and be like, oh, we're not gonna fuck with them. We're not gonna fuck with the federal government.
So we can go back this. You sit there and Jesse, hold on. Jesse, hold on. You sit there and you do that, and I'm guilty of it too. And we've all talked about it, man. But you're sitting next to someone who's actually doing something about what we're talking about.
That's great.
So until you and I can get out of our comfort zone and actually try and attack,
my comfort zone also worries me.
Hold on.
Also worries me.
Hold on, man. Hold on. Until we decide to attack it like they are, that's a different story, man. We can all sit here with a big voice and we have a podcast and we can sit here and talk and do these types of things, but they're attacking it head on. Caleb, Pat, I don't know.
Gun Eye here.
Gun Eye.
Then there's
whoever. Jesse, 1 second. You can get in there, man. They are fighting the fight, man. They are trying to take it head on to protect those rights or whatever it is that is. We have never done that. We have never done that.
No, and I believe in that.
So then do it. So then do it. So then do it. Then when you sit in that chair, then you can get angry. I can't get angry because I've never done it. See, I've never done it, man.
Let me put it this way.
See, what you're actually fighting for is something very minuscule. Nobody can get on board with. Like, no, I can't. Dude, I'm just as angry,
bro. They got SAPA passed.
Dude,
that is huge.
Gun laws, whatever.
That's the last line of defense.
You literally, you're talking about gun laws right now. Whenever our presidents that we voted in are all garbage. All of them are fucking garbage.
It has to start
They're
somewhere.
fucking out. They're out for them fucking self and then fucking all this. And human beings has been raped for their money and their fucking work, and nobody realizes their fucking worth, and nobody rises up to fucking see what they can be.
They're rising up. They're rising up.
Like, gun laws are a little bit. Dude, gun laws are a little bit, Paul. Gun laws are just a little bit of this problem.
It starts somewhere.
You talk about a small portion of an actual problem,
let me
and
share a
our
Latin
federal
phrase with
government
you.
fucking rapes us for our fucking information and fucking all this alpha fucking comes in, owning Google. Anything you Google, they fucking track you. Fucking all this shit. We've given up. We've given it all up because we're worried about the fucking the dark skinned people from the other side of the fucking river and all this shit, and we're worried about a fucking somebody that's actually coming in to be a terrorist. That's now what we need to be fucking worried about. It's our own government taking advantage of us right now, and everybody's fucking on board with it. Like this is no.
Hey, believe it or not, there's more people that are not on board with that crap than you might realize. The problem is with the indoctrination, a lot of people don't realize that those other people exist. Another factor to add in there. Let me. I'm literally
Let Caleb get in there, man.
I get it. Let me share a nice little. No, I'm good. I got to drive home. A nice little phrase with you. It's a nice Latin phrase. Concordia res parve cuscun. It's actually a phrase that is the motto for the 10th Amendment Center, but it's very straight to the point because it means small things grow great through concord. The whole reason you reference a constitution, the whole reason that you try to compare it to natural law is because people know the terms. People can look at something and learn that, because when you try to educate people, most people, you have to give them something to look at in front of them on paper. It's sad, but it's true. And you have to have something in front of them on paper to see. And then you have to educate them on how and why this has become corrupted. You have to undo damn near 100 years worth of damage. But it's happening faster than they could undo it. It's happening far faster. About a third of the NFA items are no longer NFA in Missouri. And this is only one thing. SEPA is only one thing. It's a solid representation in some regards, and it's great we got that through. But then you have to take more steps beyond that. You have to attack what is causing the root cause of the corruption. And it's not worth trying to mess with the federal government. You have to educate the people in your local area and get them to enforce that crap on the state, which will in turn blockade the Fed. You have to attack it from the ground up. And not only that, but you also have to attack it at a community level too. This is why I personally, and I know to some extent the organization.
Do you ever lose morality in having to do that local groundwork? You have to play to a certain tier of people.
You have to say things in a certain way. But let me give you an example. So if you want to attack a police union, and then you have thin blue liners.
Do you want to run for office ever? You got my vote.
No, I have zero desire to be in that cesspool.
But that's the issue. We need good men to fucking run, man.
The
good
problem
men and women.
You're better off actually working from the outside in a lot of regards. If you can find some people that have a nice charismatic face and stick them in there. But we don't particularly endorse candidates. This organization does not endorse candidates. We just give people airtime and then hold them to their word on things. But we have to educate people. And if you can't educate them on top of affecting the legislature, you're going to run into problems. You're going to have people that try to change things but then don't.
So I have to leave this podcast because Savannah's here. And I want to have so much more conversation with you.
Oh, we will.
Like, I legitimately...
Caleb will be back, man. He'll be back for sure.
I have so many questions for you.
Yeah.
Man, my heart yearns for conversation like this. Especially, I want to get... You go so political, and you go so, like...
Let me
explain
one more thing,
but
too.
I can't. Fuck. I
This will
legitimately
take
have to go.
Take me
10
seconds, about 30 seconds. In order...
You have 30 seconds.
Okay.
I'm going to get yelled at. I literally have a baby. Like...
Yeah.
I'd love for you to meet him. I think he's going to be here. Do you want to hold my kid?
No, not really. I've never been comfortable holding
Put the
kids.
AR. Put the AR on his head. In his
That would be awesome.
I would not allow that.
Anyway, but when it comes to actually dealing with
Be
these
cute.
people, when dealing with these people, you're talking to blue liners, You don't attack the cops. You attack the police union. You attack the police union. You attack the union.
Please. I would love to have this conversation.
Yeah. All right.
I gotta be.
Love you, man.
I gotta be done. You guys keep talking.
Yeah, we will for sure.
We will.
More of these.
You'll hear more too when you rewatch it later. I'm gonna let me get flipped around here so you can get by.
I wanted like open conversation, and I wanted to like respond. Hold on. Birdie, what? Yeah, I'll let you.
Yeah, I gotta go through all that stuff. That should be fun. Let's let him
Escapade.
escapade.
Love you, man. We'll see you later.
I'll catch you later, man.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah. First Father's Day for you.
Yeah. 100%.
Nice.
See you, brother. No, I think it's really important to start on a local level, honestly. Like I said earlier, man, that's huge. That's really important.
And the political side is only a tiny little sliver of a piece. Because you have to deal with these police unions. You have to publicly attack them.
But no one has ever done it before, right?
No. Which is why it's time to do it now.
Right, and they're not used to it. That's probably the biggest part. And whenever they get confronted, and then they have to get used to it because now people are aware and they have to deal with that type of situation.
I look at when you okay, so you have a lot of people that claim they know what they're talking about, and I like to call them armchair politicians.
Okay.
But and when I say know what they're talking about, I'm specifically meaning the ones that just pick a red or blue side, and they sit in their chair and watch the news all day and say this needs to happen based on this rhetoric. And I've noticed that the more people that you talk to like that, and you can drag them in and actually they physically see the corruption in front of their face, they go through a grief process. And I mean a literal grief process. And waking up to the reality, for a lot of people, it's rough because their whole life they believe that this system has this set structure and it's supposed to work this way. That would be like, let's see here. Someone, thinking 2 + 2 is 5 all their life, and all of a sudden it's only 4.
What do you mean?
That was a 1984 reference.
I've still never read that book, man. I still need to.
It's better on audiobook.
Yeah.
It's just easier because you can listen to. I'd use audiobooks because my eyes just suck for reading.
Doing this podcast, I should have read that book, but I think you bring up a great point because, like, for me, it was at a really young age. Like, I'm talking probably 19, 20 years old. Whenever I've talked about it on the podcast before, I'm not going to specifically say it was Zeitgeist that kind of opened me up to these types of conversations that we're having, but maybe it was. And after watching that documentary, the first one, and specifically 9/11, and he opens up in religion, stuff like that, I think they kind of did open the door for me, and I was able to see past a lot of the things that are going on. Obviously, you're bringing a lot of new information to me that I had no idea locally that I should have looked into and probably tried to attack as well. But you're right, there are people out there who are 40, 50, 60 years old, and when they're confronted with these types of ideas or what is presented in reality, in my opinion, they're like, well, holy shit. Like, you live 50 years old, and then you're like, holy fuck, dude, everything is just not what I thought it was. Like, dude, that's huge. That's huge.
It's sickening, and the deeper you go into it, the more you get black-pilled. And then you look at what can be done about it, and you understand what can be done about it. You get white-pilled. You know what the difference between those is, right?
I don't.
Okay, so you have red pill and blue pill,
right?
And then however you want to lay that out.
Hold on, what happens if you take the red and the blue pill?
Usually that winds up being black-pilled because you just see it's all a dumpster fire. But
all right,
but the black pill just means it's like, you know what? Society's done. Just let it all collapse around me. I don't care anymore. I'm just going to crawl in a hole and die kind of shit.
Right.
Then you have your white pill, which is where, okay, well, this is an absolute dumpster fire. Society is going to collapse, which that's unavoidable at this point. But you see a light at the end of the tunnel. You see a way out of this to make a better world out of that experience. And that is the white pill. And
I'm going to go with Jesse on this one, though. I think that maybe you've seen that throughout the civilization of what it is called Earth. And you've seen these. I mean, you go back to the Egyptian times, and you see what they were able to accomplish with the pyramids. And I think that was worldwide, and I think that was more on a global scale than what we're told. You know, all these pyramids came up at around the same time. This great technology, something we can't replicate.
That's another thing too. I had to go into it.
But what I'm saying is we can't replicate that, and not to say that wasn't a cataclysm event that ended that civilization. But I think that if you
12,000-year disaster cycle.
That could possibly be true. You know what I'm saying?
I've got to go through that one too. That's it. That's going to be interesting.
And I would love to hear it, but what happens if that's not the case, and this is just what it is human beings are, and we can't get over ourselves to where we always end up in this position? Because you look at the Romans, and they were able to dominate for over 1,000 years, and we're only at 250 years here in America, right? Mm-hmm. And there's no way we're going to make it 1,000 years. You know what I'm saying?
No, the reality is I don't see this country as a whole, or at least in terms of bare minimum, the federal government lasting outside of 2030. I don't see this economy and the dollar lasting outside of 2023.
So there you have it.
2023, 2024.
I mean, we're not even going to make it 300 years at that point.
No. But the point of all of this is that if you can change shit on your state level, you can stabilize it the best you can. So no matter what happens to the federal government or that financial system, it will affect your area and your community the least possible.
Which is a true statement. I mean, living in Cass County, which you are Cass County, so am I, throughout the whole entirety of COVID, we had no mask mandates.
Nope.
We had none. And that's with, I don't know how much influence or how much you were involved with that.
No.
I was not even involved in any way at a local level when it came to that. But that's just where we're at, which is really cool to say that we lived in a county that never had that a thing. That's huge.
I did troll I did kind of. I lost. I'm on my 10th Facebook account now because I trolled the health department so bad.
Good. Fuck yeah.
Oh God! You know the most hilarious thing was when what was it? New York pulled that thing with the report your neighbor thing.
Yeah.
And everybody was just sending in dick pics and Hitler memes, and it destroyed the system.
It's
that was hilarious.
Yeah, it's what they get, man.
I mean, but here's the thing. And as I was saying a second ago, the political side is only a tiny, tiny portion of everything.
When you bring in unions like you talk about, that's a way bigger side than the political side, yeah.
Yes, that too. So that's another layer. But then you also have to affect the education portion of it. One of the best things you can do is cut the Department of Education out of your state. Another great thing you can do, and that all still goes into the political side of things.
Because the Department of Education is a federal program, okay, and they have their hands in every school. So you're 100% correct, and yes, that needs to be gone.
You know, prior to that, it was commonplace for kids to have guns in schools.
Right.
Never had a problem then, eh? Gun-free zones act. Never had a problem then.
I'm right there with you. You can't have gun-free zones.
I guarantee it's not a gun-free zone if I'm there, but hey.
I always feel weird going into a gun-free zone, I'll tell you that.
By the way, though, interesting side piece about Missouri's gun laws. So no concealed carry permit. It's permitless carry. So there's still places where it's restricted.
Businesses.
No, actually, that one is not so much. Even if it says a sign up there, it's not a crime to carry in there.
Okay.
It's when you go in like a bank or a school or something or a courthouse.
Right.
Now, if you have your concealed carry permit, it doesn't expressly authorize, but if you walk into a school and they say nothing, they can't do anything about it.
Fair enough.
The only thing they can do is get you for trespassing.
Right. You can say I'm there to protect.
It's not authorized, but it's also not a crime and not recommended.
I mean, I wouldn't recommend it.
No, I wouldn't either, but you get my point.
For sure.
My point. They actually can't do anything about it here. Which means anybody could be packing anything anywhere, and even if it's a parent outside of the school, I mean, good luck with that.
Right.
Good luck with anything pulling anything off in Missouri.
which is why you've really never seen it in Missouri.
I mean, technically, if you're 18 and if you're 18, you can leave your shotgun in the back of your truck on a school parking lot because it's in a personal vehicle.
Right.
They can't. They legally cannot say anything.
Missouri is a beautiful state, man.
It is.
It's a beautiful place.
But and by the way, for disclaimer purposes, none of this is legal advice or legal advice.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
None of it is.
None of it is.
We're a little bit close to the hour, my man. Definitely went a different way than I thought it would, but I think it was beautiful, man. There's a lot of information that was said.
How much time do we have left?
Yeah, we have as much time as you want. I mean, but we are over the hour. So, but
I did want to kind of touch on another thing too with it.
Yeah,
and
this
is the community angle.
Okay.
So you can, I was saying a second ago, you can educate all you want. You can act politically all you want and all that. But at the end of the day, those words on paper are still nothing if you don't go about making use of them, or you do your part to flat out exit their system. There is nothing stopping people on paper or legally or anything stopping them from exiting the system. Now, Missouri is not a gold and silver state where, there's a,
state
where
repository or is
where there's a repository. Now, we're working on that, but gold and silver is still treated technically like money here because there's no taxes on it in Missouri. There's no sales tax on gold or silver. It's treated as a money. So you can trade in that all you want. As for exiting the system, Missouri's cottage food laws are actually halfway decent. Anything you can or bake, you can sell it right out of your house. You can sell it online. In fact, they just changed something. We completely missed this, but it made it through. That now you can go well above the $50,000 mark for selling your baked goods out of your own home,
tax free.
I mean, you still
no sales tax.
That's up to you. That's up to you. I'm not going to make any suggestions
Sure.
on that one. Fuck taxes.
Yes. Fuck 'em.
But I mean, there's nothing truly stopping you from using a different medium as long as you don't use their dollars. There's nothing. If you can find a way to not use their dollars, that's not taxed. Their dollars are taxed. Crypto in a certain way can be taxed if you run it through their their systems. But if I give you an ounce of gold that's worth $2,000, I mean, and let's see here, what would be something that would be hell? If you're selling that computer over there, and the high performance computer, and I said, okay, here's an ounce of gold, and you wanted to exchange that, that's not taxable. Same thing with any kind of physical trade. If you want to get off of their fuel and everything, get yourself an older vehicle, one that has a carbureted engine. Yeah, it's going to suck gas, but go ahead and throw yourself a wood gasifier in the back and run it off of trash, literally trash. If you take trash and anything burnable, throw it in a sealed area where it has minimal oxygen, just enough to produce heat from a little bit of burning, and then the rest of it is superheated to the point where it puts off hydrocarbons, and then that's run through a little radiator and pumped into your engine. Guess what?
Free gas.
Free gas. You want to make biodiesel? Okay, get yourself as much as you want of that lovely oil from the restaurants that they have to pay to get rid of. Methanol and sodium hydroxide. Proper ratio, heat it to the right temperature. My channel, I actually have can't think of the word.
Like a description.
I threw together a playlist on there. I actually need to make it public just so it's out there so people can just click on it. But it's I just threw together a playlist of a bunch of different ways to make your own fuel.
So you've done these things and you've put it on video.
No, not that I did,
right.
But I found these videos of people just doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to stick it in one place so people can just pick it up and look at it. But and I do need to put content up there, but I'll wait until we get this house done. That's another story. But you can make your own fuel. You can raise your own food. You can grow your own food. You can, and it doesn't matter if you're in an apartment in town.
We've been catered to our whole lives in that mentality, right?
Exactly. Because if you're not dependent on them, they're powerless.
Yeah.
Because they can't stop everybody. If everybody's independent from that system, what are they going to do? Have Waco everywhere? How's that going to go?
Yeah, it wouldn't go well. They wouldn't have a country left.
No, they wouldn't. They would wind up killing themselves in the process. You think people are just going to hand over their ability to do that once they do it, once they figure out it's their freedom? They'll kill for that.
Yeah.
I mean, you realize that in the U.S. as a whole, we have, what is it like, and this is just what's known of what's on 4473s. By the way, the ATF, they switched to their digital system, which is searchable now, even though it's not supposed to be. Once again, another bureaucratic violation. But they switched to their digital system. You know what their claim was?
For what?
For why they switched to it?
And they can track guns? I don't know.
That wasn't their claim. Now, that's obvious. They're going to try to do that. But their floor collapsed from so many 4473s.
What was that?
The ATF building, the federal building, had their floor collapse because of boxes and boxes of 4473s.
What, is that ammo?
No. 4473s is the forms you fill to buy a firearm.
Oh, there's no way. No way.
No, it actually happened. Their floor collapsed from too many 4473s. Millions. I think it was, actually, how many was that? I want to say it was... Now, you have to keep in mind that sometimes, there's other firearms that have multiple firearms on them too, but if I remember correctly, it was like 80 million of them.
Damn.
Now, keep in mind that of those 4473s, of what exists in that building, because that's what they know about, because FFLs, as long as they're still around, have to keep that for 25 years. Well, actually, they made that permanent, so they have to keep them forever now. But from the numbers they have, we have about 400 million firearms. And then you factor in, for every one of those, there's probably 6 or 7 they don't know about.
Right.
And that includes a lot of other weaponry, too.
Yeah.
What are they going to, like, do they think that they would have any kind of ability of whatsoever? And you have to think about the number of gun owners.
But they don't even think about it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like
They don't.
Throughout the podcast, they don't even have to. Through what they've created through the propaganda machine, where the state of mind is of the American society, they don't even have to worry about it, man. And I've talked about this, Caleb. I truly and I honestly think that within the next 30 to 40 years, they're literally softening up society each generation to where they're going to be able to.
There's not going to be another 30 or 40 years.
But what I'm saying is, if they have it their way and it does go that far, they will be able to take guns away because that's how soft they are making society, man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the end goal for them. And once they do that, then that's whenever they're able to do what it is they want to do.
I'm gonna disagree about softening up, because if you look at the polls, even their own polls,
Lying with statistics, I don't agree with any polls.
Oh,
man.
I know. I'm just saying, even with their own polls,
Yeah.
their own agenda.
There's no way to poll 325 million.
I know. I'm seeing
Americans.
at that angle. There's been a drastic pushback the other way, and then just from people that I know here in Missouri in general, people that it didn't used to be that you could. Let's put it this way: you didn't used to be you walk down the street, and talk to someone and just say, "Yeah, fuck the ATF," and they'd go, "Hell yeah." Didn't used to be like that.
Well, no, here. So Bribberty gibbered. The power exists not in their kinetic weaponry, but in the minds of the population. That's a great way to put it.
Which is why. Hang on a second. You put EH. You misspelled what?
I did, yeah.
But so you have to. This is why you have to attack at every angle. My point I'm making with this is you have to attack at every angle, including counter-economic. You need to have people. You need to be able to starting a movement to make a complete separate economic system as well. Because at the end of the day, once when the music stops and they're ready to try to push something, which they're pretty close to that, they can't do shit when they don't have control over the food. They don't have control over any of that. A lot of people don't realize, like, for example, when it comes to even somebody in an apartment, if you have an extra little room in the house, you can throw a hydroponic system in there real easy and grow some tomatoes. And your neighbor next door can grow, a whole bunch of heads of lettuce in it. And the neighbor next door down there can grow whatever. And you can keep it going down the line. If you have a whole bunch of, people.
I think next podcast, whenever you come over, and man, you're more than welcome to come over any week. We could talk about doing those types of things, like just making people aware of what it is that they're capable of doing. Because, again, we just started growing some stuff out, and having 3 kids, it is difficult to do those types of things, but it's really not. It's actually easier than you think. So
get them involved.
Yeah.
You get the kids involved, teach them how to do it. Teach them how to dig holes. Have fun with it.
Yeah. We had a really good podcast, man. I don't want to keep it going because for the listeners that don't tune in who are live, I just want to keep it at that because there's a lot of good information in there, Caleb. Truly, man. Especially when you get down to brass tacks and how locally it's just as corrupt as it is nationally. I think that's really powerful, man. And just even bringing that up, I just want people to listen to that. Mm-hmm. Our average duration of people who tune in and watch the podcast is probably like 18 minutes. So it's really hard to capture an hour's worth of good conversation into 18 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
you ever thought about taking like specific, like just looking?
I need to do shorts.
Take snippets and put them in at like 20-minute venues there.
I have 3 kids, man.
Oh, I know. I know.
I'll pay you money.
I mean,
yeah, but
I'm poor, so.
All right. Well, we'll talk about this outside, man. But
all right.
Great podcast with Caleb. Caleb, thanks for driving out here, man. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to have you over here on Talk Junkies, man. Kyle, I'm sorry, man. I know you're tuning in. I know we plan on having you on. Caleb was supposed to be here at 11:30 tonight. I did get a text from Jesse super early today where he was actually able to come out and join the podcast. So we did start a little bit early tonight, my man. So I'm sorry about that, Kyle. I'll text you in a little bit, my man, about that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I hope you enjoyed
Lies.
it. Yeah, is that what he said?
Yes.
They're not lies, man. I promise you. It's Father's Day. Jesse's girlfriend allowed him some time. But the best thing you guys can do about this podcast is share it to everyone in your phone contacts, man. You just click select all, everyone in your phone contacts, and let Caleb to describe to you and everyone in your phone contacts how corrupt it is when it comes to unions politically in your own state and how that decides the discourse of legislation in your state and how crazy that is and how we need to change that. Caleb, thank you for bringing that to my attention.
And I will say one of the best ways you can find this information now some states it's kind of wonky how their websites work, but they're supposed to report who their campaign finances are. And you can go onto the website, pull up their campaign financing or at least search for it somewhere on Google or whatnot. And usually you can find out what unions have donated to them. And compare that to their voting record. And you'll find out that it's the same way across the country.
The more people get up in arms over local politics, the better it is for each and every single one of us.
Local politics, local community, and separating from the system.
100%, man. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. For all our junkies out there, stay fly and ring the bell.